so present here. And if you listen carefully, he will speak to you. That's really what it's all about. It's the first step in yoga, to listen carefully. As Guruji would say, shut up and listen. Do you have any questions for us? Anything at all, really?
Some people think you can listen and talk at the same time.
Like when one person asks a question, it's a gift for everyone else because they get to listen.
Right. It's like people think you can, what's that, multitask. No, you can only handle one thing at a time, and barely that, right? So multitasking is you're concentrating on one thing for a little bit of time, then you switch your concentration to the other thing, like that. It's like not simultaneous. Except for those of you that are AI robots. I'm not sure, there could be some in this room.
Speak for yourself.
Karma has a question, I'm a little afraid.
Yeah.
She asked graduate level questions.
It's true.
I can't handle it.
It's true.
Bring yourself down to my level.
Sharon, I'd like to ask you to share with us your inspiration for yoga and veganism and spiritual activation. If you could share it from me directly.
Okay. Before I was a yoga teacher, I was an animal rights activist, vegan activist. And I practiced yoga, but I had no interest in teaching yoga because I was so engaged, enthralled with learning. And I didn't have time to even consider teaching. Just the ecstasy that comes from delving into a subject and receiving insights and cross-examining, reading many, many different books and translations and meditating and contemplating. And I knew it was leading me in a good direction. But I didn't really know where that was going to be, how that was going to play out. And then I was taking lots of yoga classes, so was David at that time. And all the classes that I took, they were asana classes. And there wasn't very much philosophical discussion. And I couldn't really understand the bridge between, well, what does twisting or standing on your head or bending forward or backward have to do with that? Yoga, connecting to God. Sometimes I get some answers like, well, first you got to connect to your body, then you can connect to God. Okay, it just didn't really satisfy me. It seemed like we were too much identified with our body. And most of us do feel that we are our bodies. And this was the big teaching of Guruji Sri Brahmananda Saraswati. You are not your body or your mind, although you have a body and mind. So anyway, I came across Patanjali's Yoga Sutra, chapter 2, to verse 46. Does anyone know that?
Connection to the earth.
Say it loud, say it proud.
Right.
Okay, 3 words. 3 good words.
Stira, Sukham, Asana.
Yes. Let's say it together.
Stiram Sukham Asana.
And so, cross-referencing all the different translations I had, your posture, basically, you said your posture or your pose should be steady and comfortable. Somehow that just didn't satisfy me. What does asana mean? So an asana, when you look up these, this was before Google and things like that. And a lot of yogic texts would describe asana as a deer skin, or tiger skin, or a grass mat. So I kind of got the idea, it's something you sit on. It's a seat. Asana is a seat. We get our word. Yes, because I was beginning to learn how many English words, French words, Spanish words originate from Sanskrit. So I was just beginning to understand those kinds of things. But when I hit on that insight, that asana meant seat, and I kept going with that. Well, what is a seat? It connects you to earth. It's something that is a mediator between you and the earth, whether it's the floor or your mat or a chair. And then another part of the insight happened with the book by Ram Dass, 1960 or 70 classic, be here now. And on the cover is a chair. And I remember writing to the Hanuman Foundation, why is a chair on the cover? Could this have something to do with, this theory that I was formulating? And no one at the Hanuman Foundation answered my question. I don't know, somebody else designed it, or someone came up with that idea, and then I kind of tried to follow the trail and never really get any answers. I even asked Ram Dass, and somebody else designed it, or someone came up with that idea, and then I kind of tried to follow the trail and never really get any answers. I even asked Ram Dass, and he was like, I don't know. But that was some years later when I asked Ram Dass. But anyway, so sometimes when I wake up in the morning, and maybe this happens to many of you, things become clearer than they were the night before, the day before, or weeks before. It's kind of like the puzzle pieces kind of like fall into some kind of shape that you can read something from what seemed to be disconnected before. So that happened to me one morning, and I had the realization that a seat connects you to the earth, and earth is not just your sticky mat. In fact, at that time, there were no such things as yoga sticky mats, actually. Most yoga centers, we practiced on towels, bath towels. It was very difficult. But there's always something to learn, and you learn how to activate your legs in downward dog on a towel, or you're going to slip and fall right on your face. So I had the realization, the insight, that earth means all beings and things. Animals, non-human animals too. So our connection, which is another way of saying our relationship, because that's what a connection is, a relationship, to all beings and things should be stira and sukham. Sukham means happy. Comfortable, yeah, because if you're not happy, you can't be comfortable. Stira, steady, as in consistent. Consistent, steady. Like the earth is steady. She orbits in a steady way around the sun. She revolves. She's a revolutionary. And the key to a successful revolution is steadiness. Not chaotic impulsiveness and just venting your displeasure at something. Remember, I considered myself an activist, a revolutionary person at that time. So all of these things kind of coming together on the table when I woke up that morning sealed it for me. And I thought, there's more to this Patanjali's Yoga Sutra than I think most people have seen. I want to see more. And that's when I agreed with David. Okay, David. Because David had this idea, he was looking for a place to rent so that I could teach yoga. But that's when I said, okay, we'll try this. But you have to promise me a couple of things. One, if nobody shows up, then that's it. We don't try to pull people off the street. We don't advertise. We don't, I don't want that kind of a life. We have to worry about marketing and convincing people. Either they're there because they really want to be there, or they're not, and that's okay too.
It's the Elon Musk approach.
Your heart has to be into it. So we started JIVAMUKTI with that kind of idea of really not interested in proselytizing. Just if a group of like-minded people thought that what we were doing was interesting and wanted to participate, we would do it together as a collective. And we could continue to learn together and to increase our knowledge and maybe some little sparks of wisdom we might be graced by Guru, by the Lord, who knows. So I was up for the adventure because I thought that, okay, finally, I think I have a platform where I can bring the message of animal rights and veganism through yoga to people who would be interested, and then we'll build a strong community of spiritual activists. So.
How many people showed up the first class?
It was packed. I don't know where they came from. And it just stayed like that. It was quite a surprise. I still wasn't totally committed even. It took me a while. But I also made a couple other stipulations to David. I said, we also have to have a library. I had lots of books. I wanted to share the books. I cataloged the books. There was little cards. thought, wow, librarian, what a life. You get to be alone with books and read all them. Every now and then someone comes up to your desk and wants to check one out. So, and then the other thing was, I said, David, I want to serve tea to everybody. See, I happen to love tea. And the library and the tea project didn't go over so well, but the veganism and the animal rights activism did. And so here we are today.
Wow.
Although the first time we were at Ananda Ashram here and taught a workshop, we were almost thrown out because we showed the animals film. And we read an account of what happens to turkeys on Thanksgiving because it was a Thanksgiving weekend.
That was harsh.
That was harsh. But we lived through it.
Yoga Journal almost, we had a whole room full of people walk out and boycott our seminar at Yoga Journal conference with picket signs and stuff out front because we showed the animals.
What did the picket sign say? Let us harm animals? I mean, how do you?
Yeah, right. I don't remember except David and Sharon are cruel.
Well, the general consensus was,
We wrecked their bob.
Yeah.
they didn't say mom, but they said I was in samadhi when I
Yeah.
came to your session this morning, and you destroyed my samadhi.
Yeah.
And so then I asked, I said, are you vegan? I said, are you vegan? No, what does that have to do with yoga, We knew what we were up against.
I have a question about ahimsa. So, what my perception is in the world nowadays, it goes kind of beyond veganism. For example, if you really, or I really try not to harm, but for example, I'm from Switzerland, so I had to take the decision to take a plane and to fly here to the US. It's not as a direct harm to an animal as you're eating meat, but still, somehow I know that it affects the climate, which also then affects the habitat of humans and non-human life. So I just, sometimes it's hard to, or for me at least, to try still to live. And this, I can't really explain the question.
It's a negotiation.
Yes,
you
exactly.
know? And it's good that you're bringing the question up for yourself. Should I travel all that distance? What is it going to be more important that I get there than not? And I can't take a boat. That would take way too long. You know what I mean? Rather than just jumping for it, yes, I deserve this. I'm going to take it and change the world with it. I think it's good to not. Most people, they take a lot of things for granted in their lives. The electronics, there's so much taken for granted, and then someone will stick up in their hand and say, "Well, wait a minute. Let's talk about this. Let's look at it closely." And that's what you're doing. So I think that's good. Your hands up.
Patanjali gives the yamas as practices. So a practice implies that you mindfully approach everything you do, using those guidelines, those 5 guidelines of ahimsa, satya, asteya, brahmacharya, and parigraha. So how can I cause the least amount of harm?
You could cut your arm in half by getting a little rowboat to go back. No, she had a sailboat.
Well, you can think of it this way too. What if all of us got on a plane and went to where you were? Now your one plane ticket coming here. I mean, David's point, I agree with. We should think about these things very seriously and really weigh the consequences of our actions.
Like see behind the veil. Hadi and I were talking about this today. I asked him, what's the difference between Yoga Maya? Do you know who Yoga Maya was? That's Krishna's sister, spoken of different ways. She was born the same time as Krishna, but she's like his Shakti, his like Yoga Maya is, she pulls the veil over all of us so that we think this is real. You think I'm talking and you're sitting there and we're all at Ananda Ashram, but the fact is that it's all an illusion, that that's Yoga Maya's work. But then there's another one, Mahamaya, is like runs through the whole experience of the material plane, and the idea that it's real. That's the big curtain.
Well, what is the difference?
Huh?
What is the difference? You sound similar.
Right. They're similar, but Yoga Maya is for our evolution, and Mahamaya is for our de-evolution.
Oh, because Maya reveals and conceals. So the Yoga
Yeah,
Maya,
Right.
does the revealing, and Mahamaya does the
Yoga
concealing.
means to be bound. In one meaning of the word, it means being tied to a stake. The stake is your sadhana, your practice. And the yoga is you bind yourself to your practice, your practices. And so why would you want to bind yourself to something except to be free? Right? It's not like the only way we have to freedom is through bondage, and that's Yoga Maya. Yoga Maya will bind us and also set us free. So, but I don't know why I'm talking about that, but it's interesting thing we were talking about. The discussion comes in the Srimad Bhagavatam where Krishna eats the mud. Do you know that story?
Yes.
He eats mud, or the kids tell on him to his mom that he's outside eating mud. Your kid's outside eating mud. So she, and the mud's bad. It's like cow poop and pee and everything is there, So she runs out, and she's like, "You bad boy, what are you doing eating mud?" And she said, "Open your mouth and let me see. Is there mud in there?" And he opens his mouth and gives her the cosmic experience. Like she sees everything. She sees past, present, future. She sees all the beings of all the planets and more, and everything, and like the gods spinning things and evolving and the whole thing. And she has the experience of the oneness of being. Beyond her job as mom of Krishna, beyond Krishna even, she experienced total non-duality, sort of the fullness of the whole thing. And then he closes her mouth and she gets scared. She gets really frightened. I don't know if I can handle this. It's my kid, but he's filled with emptiness, and that's everything. And what can I do with that? And so Hadi was telling me this story today. I didn't know this story. She prays to Shiva, and Shiva comes to her in her fear, and he says, "Don't worry." What does he say? Don't worry.
Don't worry. You saw something, but he's still your little boy.
He's still your little boy.
Krishna,
and he was pulling on her sari. You added that detail.
Right.
He's pulling on her sari,
like
down on all fours.
Yes.
And in that moment, she falls in love with him as her son, as her little boy. And she's like, and she totally forgets what she saw in his mouth. Just gone, never happened. So that's like Yoga Maya at work, But it also then goes on to this interesting discussion of how it's a higher place to be is to be in love with Krishna even as a baby, and you're the mother, than to experience ultimate transcendent enlightenment. That's less than falling in love with Krishna as a cute little kid. It's a really interesting part of the Mahabharata. You got to go 10 books to get to that. Anyway.
Srimad Bhagavatam.
Srimad Bhagavatam, yes. That's our daily practice, by the way. People are always asking. Every day we read. We even took the books to the Great Wall of China and read Srimad Bhagavatam sitting on the Great Wall of China.
With Hari.
With Hari. With Hari. He's there explaining everything. We're like reading one verse and we'll say, Hari, what does it mean?
It's good to travel with Hari.
In more ways than one.
Yes.
Other questions?
Where do you draw your inspiration right now?
Shri Krishna Sharon Mama. I take refuge with Krishna. And I say it all day long. That mantra.
There's two things I look to young people for. Tech and inspiration. If there's not hope in people that are younger than me, there ain't no hope.
Can't do it by yourself anymore.
No, our time is done,
This is David's opinion.
So I have a question, like yoga for me is self-treatment, like I clean up my mind and just relaxing, follow the instruction. But how can I use like yoga to help some people, not physical inability, but psychological, not like, their depression, their like some mental issues, how we can support them, like helping them.
Well, you have to reach a state of mental clarity yourself.
Oh, I need to.
Before you think you can fix other people, you gotta fix yourself.
I'm not qualified.
There's an old saying from India, walk the walk.
What?
Pada, one step at a time. But, I would say that if you really want to affect people's psychological state, like Guruji was a psychologist. He wrote his translation of Yoga Sutras called the, what's it called? Textbook of Yoga Psychology. So look at that book. I would defer to him because he was trained in this. How the yoga practice and the psychological, you could say, healing go hand in hand.
But Guruji did say that he became frustrated with the Western approach to psychology, psychotherapy, because there wasn't a belief in the existence of psyche. And that is why he thought that yoga and Sankhya were much better systems to heal the mind.
I would love to hear some of your fond memories with Sri Guru Ananda. Maybe how you came to meet him and tell us about him and your relationship with him a little bit.
Well, in the book, Eternity is Happening Now, there is an essay I wrote called Sri Brahmananda Saraswati. And
That's a funny thing.
it does explain meeting him and coming to Ananda Ashram for the first time. Did you read that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That story.
But I don't think I wrote in that essay how I actually first met him. and that was at a seance.
Trippy.
My friend, my best friend for so many years, Kathleen Hunt, who was Teresa's teacher in Seattle many decades ago, right? Yeah. I didn't drive, and Kathleen had a car, and so she would always be coming up with ideas like, hey, there's this Buddhist temple, let's go visit there. I want to check that out. So we go there, and then she said, I heard about this woman who's a medium. She has these seances. Let's go. Okay, so we went to this woman's house, and she met with people like once a week, and there was in her living room, and there were regular people who came like every week, and she claimed to contact entities that had passed on for these people. And as many of you, I'm sure, have had experience with mediums, they usually go into a trance, and then a different voice comes through, and you ask a question, and the voice answers, and it's like that. So Kathleen and I were sitting in the back of the room, and for over an hour, while these regular people contacted their deceased grandmother or their uncle or an angel.
Irregular? They were regular?
They were
What were you?
we weren't regular attendants, attendees there. Okay, so it was near the end of the evening, and she said, do any of the new people have any questions or would like me to contact someone for them? And so Kathleen was like, raise your hand. She said, I didn't feel, but then I did. And at that time, I was really, I was intensely studying cell salts. And I had a mentor who was an alchemist, and he put me in touch with some books written by someone whose name was Dr. Charles Wentworth Littlefield, who lived at the turn of the century in Seattle, Washington. And actually I had found his books in the Theosophical Society library, and also I had a rare book that I had found in a bookstore downtown, and I had read everything that this guy had written. And I really thought, this guy is my spirit guide. This guy is my guru. This guy, he's going to teach me what I need to know. And so I asked the medium, I said, I've been working on this project, and I'd like to know if my teacher thinks that I am making progress and what I should do next. So she went into her trance, and then she said, your teacher says you are doing fine and that he will meet you, but it won't be for about 10 years. Okay, that was it, right? And as she was saying this, I saw these images of a man. Now, I didn't know what Dr. Charles Wentworth Littlefield looked like. There were no pictures in those books of this man. But the images that came to my mind at that seance when she was talking to me, there was like an Indian man in a turban. And then he didn't have a turban, and he had kind of long hair, and he seemed very handsome and very charismatic. And anyway, so I had that experience. And then fast forward the story in the book, when my friend Shamdas takes me here to Ananda Ashram, and it's late at night when we arrive. Pretty much everyone has gone to bed. And we're taken upstairs in the main hall. And those photographs are not there now. At least they weren't there when I was here last in Thanksgiving time, this past Thanksgiving. But on the wall going up the stairs were these photographs of Guruji wearing a turban. Well, it was the guy in my vision that I saw at the seance. And I was like, there was an ashram resident there, his name was Alan, who had shown me and Shamdas in. And I said, who is this? Who is this? Oh, that's our guru. That's Sri Brahmananda Saraswati. In younger pictures of him. And I was like, oh. Then I knew. So that's the backstory. Thank you for asking.
So instead of going to a medium, you should have gone to a high. I never settled for medium.
You're much wiser than
I want a high class.
You're much wiser.
I want a high class message from the future.
So one thing before we leave you today, I'd like you to just remember when you're practicing asana that each asana corresponds to a deep karmic issue within you. And the asana, if you want it to, I mean, it will stay dormant. It will just will help you develop strength and flexibility if you want that. But if you want it, if you truly do want it to help you to understand the true reality and what you are meant to do in this lifetime, then use the asana practice as the magical practice it was intended as, meaning allow it to cause a shift in your perception. And each asana is connected to unresolved karmic issues that we have, and that this precious lifetime is giving us an opportunity to resolve if we take on the mission. And that's what yoga truly is about. So when we walked in, you were practicing twisting. And that activates the Manipura chakra. And in that subtle area of the self, we all hold residue of interactions that we have had with others who we have hurt. And I mean, I don't know about you, but for myself, I wasn't always a vegan. For 30 years of my life, I was not. And so the twists in particular give us an opportunity to resolve all of those others who we have hurt. If you're awake enough to remember that as you're twisting it, as you're breathing into the twist, and as you let go of your fear of going deeper. And yoga practice isn't designed to make you feel guilty about anything. We cannot change what we've already done because it's already done. But we do have some impact in in what we do next. We can influence our next steps in this life. To some extent. To a great extent. So satsang, being with others who are like-minded, who believe that this kind of awakening is possible, really helps us. It is said, Shamdas used to tell us, it is actually the number one practice during this time. Satsang. Good association. Satsangatve nisangatvam nisangatve nirmohatvam nirmohatve nischalatatvam nischalatatve jivanmukti Bhaja Govindam Bhaja Govindam Bhaja Govindam Mudamate. So Bhaja Govindam, remember Govinda, remember Krishna, remember God. The yogis sometimes refer to Krishna as the Atman or the Para Atman. In the Bhagavad Gita, most of those characters refer to him as Bhagavan. He's referred to as Brahman, Narayana, and many names. The names are all important, but what's most important is that you remember some name. Some name that resonates with you. Bhaja Govinda. Bhaja. Remember Govinda. Remember God. Talk to God. Sing to God. Say His name. Develop a relationship. It's the most important relationship to any of us.
In Guruji's translation of that verse, he says, Muda Mate means enlightened ones. And he would be explaining it, and Shamdas was with Sharon here, and Shamdas goes, it doesn't mean that. And Guruji, who could hear at a distance, said, huh? What? What'd you say? And Shamdas was like, oh, Guruji, Muda Mate does not mean enlightened ones.
It means deluded.
It means
fool.
muddled,
Yeah.
like deluded ones. And Guruji goes, same thing. He's always shouting.
Well, he said, yes, he said that, but he went on and he said, if you are reciting this verse,
To Krishna.
if you are even hearing it being recited, then you are no longer muddled.
No longer.
You are no longer a fool. You are wise. So that was an answer that shut us up. It was a very
He was
enlightened
actually
answer.
better than Google. He was better than Google Ananda.
Sri Ramananda had many answers.
Many answers.
Well, it's been so lovely to spend these precious moments with you in Guru's ashram. And I'm so glad you got to meet all the amazing devotees that are still here, like Bharati Devi, and Radha Devi, Purnama, and Hari. You have this
I'm not
incredible
part of
being in your presence.
I'm not part of the MTM group. You know what MTM means?
Yeah, meet the man, not the man.
Met the man.
It's a
But
name,
you came
name-
at the
I
right
came
time.
after Guruji passed, I think like 7 years after.
It's a term they use in Neem Karoli Baba Ashram followers. There's the ones that actually met him, and then the ones who just had a dream about him. You know,
But this is a very magical, special place. It is where we met Hari.
yeah.
Dave and I met Hari here.
It was right here, I was doing
He was doing the fire ceremony. They
They
were-
came through the side door, and I saw them like, who are these people?
Yes, so wonderful things can happen at this ashram. And if you listen, you'll be drawn to hear the right things.